The last human spared the galaxy had been burning for years. Star systems once filled with life now floated in silence, their planets nothing more than ashes in the void. The human empire, once proud and stubborn, had been crushed beneath the weight of alien coalitions that united only for one cause: to erase humanity from existence. Every battle had been brutal. The humans fought harder than anyone expected. They refused to bow, refused to surrender, and it made the alien council furious. They believed humanity's courage was dangerous, that it could spread to others if left unchecked. So they swore an oath: no human would survive. Yet deep within the ruins of a forgotten colony, one man still breathed. His name was not important to the galaxy, but his survival would echo through the stars. He was found by an alien scouting unit, half buried in rubble, his body broken but his eyes still burning with defiance. "Kill him," one soldier hissed, their weapon raised. "Wait," another interrupted. "Let him live. The council will want to see this." And so, against the oath of extinction, they carried the human back. They thought of him as nothing more than a relic, a strange curiosity, but they had no idea what they had truly done. The alien council gathered around him in their great chamber, their tall figures glowing under the cold light. The human stood chained, his body weak, but he did not look down. He looked directly into their eyes one by one. "This is the last one," an alien elder declared. "The rest are gone. Humanity is finished." The others nodded, but whispers moved through the chamber. Some questioned why this one lived. Mercy, curiosity, or something darker? The human did not speak. He listened as they debated, his silence heavier than words. When they asked him to kneel, he refused. When they struck him, he did not cry out. And when they demanded he admit humanity's defeat, he only whispered, "As long as I breathe, humanity still lives." Those words unsettled the council. For a moment it felt as if he was not one man but a voice carried from billions who had perished. A warning, a promise. They locked him away, but even in chains the human did not break. Soldiers guarded him closely, yet some felt uneasy near him. They said his eyes held storms, that when he looked at them it was as if he saw not what they were but what they feared to become. Time passed. The lone human was moved from ship to ship, planet to planet. Everywhere he went, the story of his survival spread like fire in dry grass. Aliens whispered about him in the markets, in the barracks, in the shadows of their cities. They called him the last flame, the spared one, the ghost of humanity. Some mocked the idea, saying he was powerless, a man with no people. But others began to wonder, why had humanity fought so hard? Why did this one man refuse to break, even when the weight of the galaxy pressed down on him? At night, in the cold silence of his cell, the human thought of his people. He thought of the mothers and fathers who had died screaming under alien fire. He thought of the soldiers who had fought until their ships were torn apart, refusing to retreat. And he thought of the children who would never see their homes again. He did not cry. He did not beg. Instead, he remembered. He carried their voices within him, and he swore a vow. "If I am all that remains, then I will be enough. If even one human heart beats, then humanity is not gone. We are only waiting." The galaxy did not know it yet, but the choice to spare him was the choice that would one day shatter them all. For legends do not die. They sleep, they grow. And when they rise, they return stronger than before. The council thought they had won. They thought the last human was a prisoner, a trophy to prove their power. But in truth, he was a seed planted in the darkest soil of history. Waiting, patient, silent. And one day, when the stars themselves had forgotten the sound of human voices, they would hear it again. Louder than before, stronger than before. An army born not from numbers but from legends. But for now there was only him, the last human spared, the ember that refused to die. Seeds of return, the years moved slowly like shadows crawling across a ruined world. The last human remained alive, though no one understood why. The alien council had spared him out of arrogance, perhaps curiosity, but never mercy. To them, he was proof that humanity was finished, a trophy they could display. Yet what they did not see was that their decision had opened a door. The human spoke rarely, but when he did, his words lingered. Soldiers on guard duty found themselves listening when he described the stars. Young scholars leaned closer when he spoke about Earth, about oceans that glittered under sunlight, about mountains that touched the sky, about music that could move the soul. He never begged for freedom. He never asked for pity. Instead, he told stories. Humans were not only warriors, he once said to a curious alien child who pressed close to his cell. We were dreamers. We built cities out of dust. We crossed oceans with only wind to guide us. And when the stars called, we answered. The child repeated his words later to her teachers, and they repeated them to others. Slowly, his stories spread like hidden sparks carried across alien worlds. At first, the council ignored it. They thought nothing of one man's voice. But whispers began to grow. Some soldiers wondered if the council had lied. If humans had truly been so dangerous, why did this one feel so unbroken? Why did his words feel heavier than their weapons? The human watched and waited. He saw how curiosity worked in silence, how doubt crawled into alien hearts. He knew stories could last longer than swords. One night, in the silence of a starship, a guard asked him, "Why did you fight us until the end? You knew you could not win." The human's answer was calm, but his eyes burned like fire. "We did not fight to win. We fought so the galaxy would remember us. Even if we fell, we wanted the stars to know that humanity does not kneel." The guard never spoke of that moment again, but his hands trembled whenever he remembered the human's voice. In secret, the last human began to leave signs. He learned the alien systems, their codes, their networks. With scraps of knowledge, he sent faint signals into the void. Not messages of surrender, but beacons, pulses carrying fragments of human songs, coordinates of lost colonies, echoes of Earth itself. The aliens thought him broken, but in truth he was building. He was calling. Across the galaxy, strange things began to happen. Small ships lost in dark sectors reported seeing fleeting lights, shapes of warships vanishing into shadow. Pirates who preyed on the weak found themselves destroyed by unknown attackers. And when survivors told the tale, they swore the attackers used weapons older than any known design. Human weapons. The council grew uneasy. It cannot be, they argued in their chambers. The humans are gone. This is nothing but rumor. But the rumors did not stop. They grew like vines breaking through stone. The spared human heard them too. Guards whispered as they passed his cell. Scholars argued in corners. Merchants told tales of ghost fleets. And though he said nothing, a small smile formed on his lips. For he knew what the council refused to admit. Humanity was not gone. It was waiting, hidden, quiet, but alive. The legends he carried had taken root. His words had spread far beyond walls and cells. And the galaxy, though it did not know it yet, had already begun to change. One night, as he looked through the narrow window of his prison toward the endless stars, he whispered a vow to the darkness. "You think I am the last, but I am the beginning. You spared me, and through me you will see what mercy has created." His voice was low, but it carried a weight that felt eternal, as if the stars themselves leaned closer to listen. And in that moment, the seeds of humanity's return were already growing, quiet, unseen, but unstoppable. Whispers of legends. Whispers often traveled faster than fleets. They moved through traders and busy markets, through soldiers and smoke-filled barracks, through frightened refugees who claimed to have seen things no one believed. At first, the council dismissed them as superstition, but soon the whispers became impossible to ignore. It began with small stories. A merchant ship lost in an uncharted sector limped back with its hull burned, and its crew swearing they had been saved by unknown vessels. They described sleek ships that fought with weapons long thought destroyed. The rescuers had vanished without a word, leaving behind only fragments of music echoing through the void. Human music. The story spread like fire. Some laughed at it, others grew pale, and the last human, locked in his cold cell, listened closely as guards argued outside his door. They said the anthem of Earth played through their comms, one guard whispered. "Impossible," another snapped. "Humans are dead." The first leaned closer, voice shaking. "Then tell me, who sang it?" The human smiled in the darkness. He had sent his beacons years ago, scattering them like seeds into the endless night. Now something was answering, more reports followed. Patrol fleets found raider outposts destroyed with brutal precision. The marks left behind were unmistakable. Kinetic weapons, rail slugs, and designs from a species that should not exist anymore. Survivors spoke of shadows moving through the stars, of human warships appearing like ghosts and then vanishing before they could be chased. The council tried to silence the rumors, but fear seeped into their halls. Generals whispered about preparing for a war they had already declared finished. Scholars demanded access to the spared human, hoping he could explain the impossible. When they questioned him, he gave them nothing but silence. When they struck him, he only lifted his head and whispered, "We told you we would not kneel." And though his body was thin, though his chains dug into his skin, he seemed taller than those who stood above him. The galaxy began to change in subtle ways. Soldiers who once mocked the human now stared at him with unease. Some swore that when he walked past, the air felt heavy, as if carrying voices not heard but felt. A few believed he was not one man at all, but a vessel carrying the weight of billions. In distant colonies, murals began to appear, paintings of humans with fire in their eyes, standing unbroken against armies. No one claimed to have made them, yet they appeared in places where whispers spread the fastest. Children spoke the name human with awe, even if they had never seen one. The council grew desperate. They gathered in secret chambers, their voices filled with anger. "This is a trick," one elder hissed. "Then why do patrols keep vanishing?" Another demanded. "It cannot be humanity. We ended them." A silence followed. Finally, one voice broke the stillness. "Or perhaps by sparing one, we made them eternal." The lone human heard none of this meeting, but he did not need to. He could feel it in the air, in the tension of the guards, in the way soldiers now looked at him with a mixture of hatred and fear. His vow was alive. The legends were no longer only his words. They had become whispers in every corner of the galaxy, and whispers, he knew, had the power to become storms. One night, the stars outside his window flared with strange light. He pressed his hand to the glass, his breath steady. A patrol fleet had been ambushed, and survivors whispered that they had seen something impossible, a ship painted with the old colors of Earth's navy. The human closed his eyes and allowed himself a rare moment of peace. His people were out there. They had survived in silence, hidden in the shadows of forgotten worlds. And now, piece by piece, they were rising again. He whispered to himself, though the walls did not answer. "They thought they killed us. They thought mercy was weakness. But now mercy has become their fear." The galaxy had begun to tremble, not under the weight of armies, but under the weight of legends. And legends, once whispered, never die. The return of humanity. The galaxy had always believed itself vast, yet safe within its power. For years, the Alien Council had told its citizens the same story. Humanity is gone. Their courage burned away with their worlds. There is nothing left to fear. But then the whispers grew teeth. In one corner of space, an entire raider fleet vanished. When fragments of their ships were found, investigators saw weapon scars that matched no alien design. The strikes were precise, merciless, and unmistakably human. In another system, a blockade was destroyed in the dead of night. Survivors swore that the attackers spoke no words but left a single message carved into the wreckage: "We endure." The council called it lies, tricks of frightened minds. But soldiers on the frontier knew better. They had seen shadows moving faster than scanners, fleets painted with the old colors of Earth, and captains who fought as if death was nothing. The spared human heard it all. Each new rumor brought to him by careless guards was a victory, a silent confirmation that his people had not only survived, they had grown. The embers had become fire. Then it happened. An alien armada patrolled the edge of a dead sector, where stars had long since burned cold. Their scanners lit up with hundreds of signals. At first, they thought it was a storm of asteroids. But then shapes emerged, ships enormous and sharp, their hulls glowing with ancient insignias of Earth. The admiral of the armada ordered all comms open. A voice answered, deep and steady, carrying across the stars with clarity that silenced even the most hardened warriors. "This is the fleet of humanity. We were broken but not destroyed. You spared one of us, and through him we became eternal. We return not as prey but as legend." The alien admiral trembled. Around him his crew whispered in terror. Some dropped to their knees. They had heard the stories but never believed. Now the myth stood before them in steel and fire. The first salvo came without warning. Human ships cut through the armada with impossible precision, their weapons old yet remade, familiar yet terrifying. Alien cruisers exploded in silence, their wreckage drifting into endless night. The battle was not a fight, it was a demonstration. Humanity was showing the galaxy what it had become. Back on the Council's world, panic spread. They summoned the spared human, dragging him into their chamber. "What is this?" an elder shouted, voice cracking. "What have your people done?"
How can they rise again?
The human, though thin and scarred, stood taller than any of them. His eyes glowed with something they could not understand. "You made us legends," he said calmly. "You tried to kill us, but by sparing me, you gave us immortality." My people listened. They remembered. And now they return. Not as a species, but as a storm you cannot control. The elders fell into silence. For the first time, the council of countless empires felt small. Outside, the galaxy itself shook as more fleets appeared, each carrying banners of Earth's old navy, each echoing the same vow. We endure, we return. And for the first time in centuries, the stars themselves seemed to remember the sound of humanity's voice. An army born of legends, the galaxy had seen wars before. Empires had risen and fallen, fleets had clashed in the dark, and whole species had burned. But nothing it had ever known could compare to this. Humanity had returned. The fleets that emerged from the void were vast, yet not reckless. They moved with precision as if every ship carried centuries of patience and planning. Their hulls bore scars of survival, yet their weapons glowed with power the galaxy had never witnessed. They were not the same humans the Council had once tried to erase. They were something greater, an echo of every sacrifice, every legend forged into steel and fire. The alien worlds trembled as human fleets spread across the stars. Some prepared for war, but others did something unexpected. They lit their skies with signals of welcome, remembering the whispers, remembering the stories told by one man, the spared human. For years he had been their prisoner. Now he was their prophet. The humans did not leave him behind. When their fleet struck, they came for him, tearing through the prison that had caged him for so long. When he stepped onto the deck of a human warship once more, the soldiers saluted. His eyes filled with tears, but his back remained straight. He had carried humanity in silence, and now humanity carried him in glory. The admirals spoke to him, voices steady yet heavy with respect. "You kept the flame alive. Without you, we might never have returned." The Council spared one life, but through that life they created an army. The spared human closed his eyes, hearing in their words the voices of the dead. He felt every soldier who had fought to the end, every child who had been lost, every colony that had burned. And now, all of them lived through this moment. The galaxy watched in silence as the human fleet sent out its first declaration. "We are not here for revenge. We are not here to burn the stars. We are here to endure. You tried to erase us, but instead you made us immortal. We are no longer a people. We are a legend." Across the stars, alien generals hesitated. Some lowered their weapons, realizing war would only feed the myth further. Others, driven by pride, attacked and were crushed swiftly, their fleets erased like dust in a storm. But humanity did not slaughter without reason. Their battles were sharp, clean, and purposeful. They fought only those who refused peace, those who had once sworn that no human would remain. And each time they won, they left behind not silence, but stories. They wanted the galaxy to remember, not just their weapons, but their will. The spared human, now old and frail, stood at the heart of this storm. He did not need to fight. His presence alone was enough. Aliens who looked into his eyes saw not a man, but the weight of an entire species refusing to die. In the end, when his time came, he did not fear it. Surrounded by fleets, by soldiers who saluted him as if he were the soul of humanity itself, he lay down to rest. His final words were simple, but they carried across the ships, across the stars, across the hearts of all who listened. "You spared one human." And that was enough. The galaxy would never forget. Humanity was no longer a people bound to a single world. They were a story written into the fabric of the stars. A force that would never again be silenced. An army born of legends.